Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Adnan Rashid. Thank you for joining our webinar on Economic Substance Regulations, ESR, in Bahrain. For this, I would like to invite our speaker, Mr. Salim, to enlighten you about ESR. Welcome, Mr. Salim. Please continue.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hope you're listening me. My name is Salim. This is a presentation and a webinar about the new regulations in Bahrain called Economic Substance Regulations. And this has been applied from this year, 2020, and it pertains to the information for 2019 or earlier. So we will start our presentation. Uh, we are still accepting participants, so they are joining us. All right, in this webinar, we are going to cover certain points, which are, for example, ESR background, what is ER in fact, ESR, and then what are the sectors and activities which is affecting ESR reporting, what to report and how to report to ESR. Uh, then ESR test. There are certain testing which need to be done by the companies. And then there are certain criteria for ESR. If companies do not follow these regulations, what can be the consequences and penalties for that? All right, so our first part is the background about ESR. The thing is that the global economy is reshaping rapidly, and countries have to adopt robust strategies to implement systems that eventually enhance the transparency and capacity. So the main idea behind this ESR is the transparency and how to allow the companies to provide their information, and so that it will be having a clear picture. In fact, this ESR has been developed by the European Union along with the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. In short, it is called OECD. It's an organization based in France. The headquarters is in France. So they have regulations which they call it Economic Substance Regulation, and this is based on something called BAPS. BAPS is basically what? Base erosion and profit sharing. And there are certain regulations operated by the OECD along with European Union. So this is the regulation which has to be adopted by certain countries. And by date, we have around 140 plus countries who have already adopted, ESR, or especially the BAPS regulations. So this is the background about ESR. Our next point is the okay. So basically, it's all about compliance. So in order to comply with the European Union, as already mentioned in previous slide, so Ministry of Industry and Commerce and Tourism, in short, it is called MOICT, and Central Bank of Bahrain. So basically, the non-financial sector is being regulated by MOICT, and the financial sector has been covered by Central Bank of Bahrain. So there was for the purpose of this regulations, there was by MOICT is covering the non-financial sector. So there was a ministerial order. This has been issued in September 2008. It's called Ministry MO number 106. So there was a ministerial order issued by the ministry that is regulating the ESR for the companies which are non-financial sector. For the financial sector, it has been issued by Central Bank of Bahrain, and there was a directive called OG 499 2008. So it was also issued in 2008. So these guidelines and regulations, as I said, the MOICT is covering the non-financial sectors, and the financial sector has been covered by the Central Bank of Bahrain through their regulations. So our next part is the all right. Just to go back to the background about ESR in Bahrain, since it was regulated by MOICT for the non-banking sector, and for the banking sector, it is by Central Bank of Bahrain. So the ultimate goal, this is very important point for you people, that the ultimate goal of ESR order is to prevent international businesses from benefiting from different tax laws between countries by artificially transferring profit to the jurisdiction that impose little or no income tax. So the whole idea behind ESR is that it is to avoid the tax evasion, uh, tax evasion or hiding the taxation. And the other point is that there are certain countries, in the world which is having the tax treaty or agreement. So it is to prevent the double taxation. Like for example, there is a company in Bahrain. They have the, let's say, certain taxes like VAT now in Bahrain. So, and then there are countries which are, let's say, outside Bahrain, like UK. There is a taxation there as well. So it is so the companies don't have to pay taxes or to avoid double taxation. So now, just a brief that each air organization, especially which are obliged to, for ESR within 3 months of the financial year. So this is like an important point, that what are the regulation in terms of filing the return. So this is every end of the year. There will be 3 months would be provided by the MOICT, for example, for the non-financial sector. So let's say your year end is December. Mostly the companies have December year end. So they are being asked to provide the, so what are the steps like to close your year, then to prepare your financials, and then get the audit done. And then the last step is to provide or submit the ESR. So by every year, 30th of March, the companies have to submit their ESR return to MOICT. And for the banking sectors to the Central Bank of Bahrain. This year is exceptional because of the COVID. This has been given another 3 months grace period to provide the ESR. Now, what are the key sectors and activities? So this part is part two. This is going to cover what are those basically the sectors and activities which have to be obliged this ESR reporting. Now, as you can see the slide, there are certain, like as I said, by Central Bank of Bahrain, they are covering the financial sector, and MOICT, they are covering the non-financial sector. So for the banking, finance companies, financing company, insurance firms, investment businesses, fund administrators, these are the different organizations or type of organizations which has to submit also the ESR to the Central Bank of Bahrain. So they are not going to send anything to the MOICT, but to the Central Bank of Bahrain. And for the other type of companies, which are non-financial sector, they are not being covered by Central Bank of Bahrain. So the license has been issued by which party? By the MOICT. So those type of organizations can be in distribution and service centers, headquarter activities, holding companies, leasing companies, shipping companies, and intellectual property. So these are the key sectors, and which can be different type of companies. So the next slide was going to provide you information which are exactly those activities. So now you can see the slide which is covering about 24 activities as per the MOICT. You can see the activity code. These are all non-financial sector companies, and then the groups. So as and then the headquarters, the leasing company, the holding companies. So these are the exact. So if any of your company's CR is having these kind of activities, it is must to provide the ESR to the MOICT. Now, this is third, which is covering the ESR reporting. Okay, so for example, if you are a company which is a multinational company and having offices in Bahrain or let's say in Saudi Arabia, in India, in other countries of the world. So you have to, this is basically a cross-border organization. So there will be cross-border transactions. So in these kind of situation, it is must to have the ESR. So it is very important that those companies have to provide the complete ESR reporting. If furthermore, if the organization under the process of liquidation, now this is like can be a question actually that, for example, there is a company which has been under process of winding up and liquidation, then are they still required to do the reporting? Yes, they do, because as per the ministerial order, the person who's responsible for the liquidation, that person has to submit the ESR. So it cannot be as an excuse that the company is not operating at the moment. All right. So basically, what is very important in ESR is your CIGA. What is CIGA? It's your core income generating activity. So like for example, a company, they are based in Bahrain. So we have to see what is the CIGA, how the way they are generating the income. So it can be taken as an adequate amount of annual operating expenses, then an adequate level of qualified full-time employees or staff, an adequate number of physical office. So we will be defining what exactly mean by adequate, but CIGA is based on these three factors. Or a relevant entity, a relevant activity are those organizations which are already defined in previous slides about those sectors which ESR is applicable. So is see, they cannot outsource their core income generating activity to a company outside Bahrain, but they can outsource if it's a company. Let's say there is a management consulting firm. The companies, they can outsource those activities, even CIGA, to those companies only within Bahrain, so that it can be have adequate supervision, and the activity can be monitored. So it has to be the other company which is going to undertake their for example activities on behalf of that company. It must be in Bahrain also. It cannot be outside Bahrain. Okay, the second test determines whether the relevant entity directions and management are located in the Kingdom of Bahrain, which is satisfied by the five requirements. So there are five requirements. So how it can be taken as a relevant entity. An adequate number of meetings of the relevant entities board of directors must take place in Bahrain. Uh, this is like important that if there is a meeting being happen, like board of directors meeting, so those directors must be available in Bahrain. At least a quorum of board must be physically present in Bahrain during the meetings. So like for example, there is a director and that he is not a resident of Bahrain. So but for the purpose of the meeting, that person supposed to be in Bahrain and must be physically available. Third point is that strategic decision concerning the relevant entity must be made at the above mentioned meetings and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. So this is about, suppose there is a quarterly meeting will happen. So those minutes of the meetings must be recorded. It cannot be, like just the meeting has been done, but no record has been prepared. So it must be prepared by the company. Uh, Fourth point is that all the relevant entity records and minutes must be kept in Bahrain. So an important thing is that those records and information has to be in Bahrain. It cannot be stored outside. So the company's information must be available in Bahrain all the time. All the board of directors are whole, as a whole, must possess the necessary knowledge and expertise to discharge its duties. So the board of directors, they must be capable to have the, that they can operate in their capacity for those type of entities, relevant activities. Okay, this is an example of a company. Let's say there is a company called ABC, and they are the limited liability company, and they are a Bahraini company which are being formed in Bahrain. Uh, so it is a part of a group. So let's say within, and it is having subsidiaries around the world. So the senior management team each have responsibility for different regions and will regularly spend time at subsidy team, providing strategic direction and helping manage material risk. So those people, maybe they are, let's say they are from UK. So they are those people. They must provide an useful insight to the people who are resident and directors, for example, in Bahrain. So they may, of course, they don't need to be resident of Bahrain, but they must be available in Bahrain to provide the, direction and helping managing the material risk. These activities are within the scope of the definition. Therefore, ABCWL is subject to the substance requirement. So it is must for these type of companies so that they must prepare the ESR and provide to the MOICT. Now, the part 4 is the certain tests. There are certain tests which need to be performed to complete this ESR reporting. What are those ESR report tests basically? The one is the applicability, the adequacy, management, and fourth is outsourcing. So these are the four type of different during preparing the ESR reportings. So once these tests will be conducted, the report must be submitted along with the justification whether proper records has been maintained or not. So as I said earlier that this has to be submitted to the MOICT with the standard formats plus the justification and along with the supporting documents. So if you are maintaining those documents, there must be supporting documents need to be provided. If you are not maintaining those records, then a justification need to be provided. So it has to be reported to the MOICT. So in addition to the entity must also obtain approval from MOICT for any of the following: establishment of offices outside Bahrain, change of shareholders, appointment of directors. So, for example, there is any change happen in the organization, which is basically to start a new office in Bahrain. So, a written information need to be sent to the MOICT for this purpose. If there is any change in the shareholding of a company, it has to be intimate also to the MOICT. And if you are appointing a new director, it has to be also taken permission from the MOICT. So these things cannot be done without the permission from the Ministry of Industry and Commerce and Tourism. All right, the fifth part is the criteria. So, like for example, as mentioned earlier also, that every year and after the year 30th of March need to be, the date is basically 31st of March. So it has to be submitted by 31st of March after the end of the year. But since the COVID has happened this year, so there was another 3 months grace period has been provided by the MOICT to the companies in Bahrain. So the first reporting date is 30th of June. Now, what is the criteria? This is like a flow chart, which is providing the criteria. For example, if there is a company which are under the relevant activities, as mentioned earlier, that those activities can be shipping, can be distribution centers, can be leasing companies, can be holding companies, and so on. So those entities, if they are having the relevant activity, if it is yes, then it has to go to the next step. If it is not applicable, then there is no requirement. So for this year, there is no requirement for the any entities who are out of scope of those entities, but for any organization who are having the relevant activity, it has to be, if it is yes, then yes. Then the other part is, does the entity have income from the relevant activity, which is, as earlier said, that CIGA, core income generating activity. So if it is an entity having the income from core income generating activity, that must be, must be generating those income. If it is not, then there is no requirement again for submitting the MOIC to the ESR report. Then there is about if the entity is pure shareholding equity entity, and then if it is having the high risk intellectual property, and so these are certain criteria. So we have to see whether it is meeting the requirements for the ESR. Now, the important point also is to keep in mind that if those reports are not being submitted, or there is non-compliance for the ESR, MOCT can apply certain sanctions and penalties on the companies. For example, if there is a relevant activity, there is a company who's been having those relevant activity and they are meeting the requirements as provided in the previous slide about the requirements criteria. So let's say if they fail to provide these annual returns because it was said that every year has to submit. So if failed to file an annual return, which is ESR returns, failed to meet the economic substance requirement for relevant activity, does not demonstrate economic substance, will deem to non-compliant and will be subject to sanction. So it is like you are having a relevant activity, but you are not, let's say, suppose organization, they are not maintaining the proper financial records, they are not maintaining the expenses, the staff, information, the office requirements, maintaining the office. So there are certain requirements which, if they are not meeting, then it is subject to MOICT that they can apply penalties. So non-compliant entities may subject to one of the following actions. MOICT have a right to issue a warning letter. Initially, they may issue a warning letter if there is any non-compliance. It can suspend the commercial registration, strike of trader from the CR, so they can remove the directors, they can remove the owners from the particular CR. Financial penalty, it is quite high actually. It is starting from basically 1,000 dinar per day. So it has to keep in mind that non-compliance can really have a very, you can say, dangerous effects on your administration. So please be careful about this, and it can be it can up to go to 100,000 dinar, and there can be a criminal prosecution if certain things are being hidden from the ministry, for example. Factors that will dictate the type of sanction imposed will depend on the type of breach, the number of times it has happened, and the MOIC judgment. So it basically, you have to keep in mind that how does the MOICT react on these things. So it will be their judgment. Let's say you are having a company and you will show to them that, like you are maintaining them, or you are in certain condition which you are going to do it in future. So it will be depending on MOICT whether they will apply a sanction or a penalty on the company or not. So it is basically their judgment. If you demonstrate that yes, it will be done, then it may not have the financial penalties. All right, there are certain frequently asked questions which we can answer for you. It is written here so you can see what can be the maybe in your mind also. Do the employee need to be in resident in Bahrain, or only have to be? For example, or period principal activity. So the answer is that employee must be resident in Bahrain. There is no residency requirement for board of directors and board members. Only be in Bahrain whenever a board meeting is required. So the employees, or the staff, they must be in Bahrain, available all the time. However, the other board of directors, they may be available only when and it is required. So they must not necessarily always need to be in Bahrain, but employees, yes, they must be in Bahrain. So second question can be, what type of level of employees, directors or management are required to be demonstrate substance? This was previously mentioned that adequate. If you remember, I mentioned in one of the slides about adequate information about expenditures, staff, and office. So the term adequate is basically, adequacy is not a quantitative measure, but rather a qualitative measure. So it is about maintaining the quality rather than the quantity. So it is about having the competence to do job, to make direct decision, to manage the business, having regard to the size, nature, and complexity of the business. So adequacy is not that which can be defined financially, in numbers, but it has to be defined by quality. So the third point is that to demonstrate substance, which employee should be attending the board of directors meeting. As per the Ministerial Order 106, it's not perspective in stipulating which employees should be attend board of directors meeting. This will be a determination of the entity. So, like for example, when you are forming a company, there are certain documents need to be prepared. So companies, they have the, let's say, memorandum of association. There is another document very important for the companies called article of association. So these things are defined in the article of association, that what are the, it is, MOIC does not have any, rule of thumb that it has to be like this way or that way. So it is depending on the information maintained and the relevant, you can say, those clauses which you are maintaining in your article of association, which type of employees must be attend the board of directors meeting. So it is not defined by the ministerial order, but it has to be defined by the company itself. The fourth question is that if a passive holding does not have a physical address, would it be able to use the address of the directors, shareholder, or corporate secretary? Holding companies are subject to reduced substance requirements pursuant to the Article 3C. Passive holding entity that is not carrying out a relevant activity is not required to have physical address. See, if that entity is not active and they are just for some purposes they have the CR, they do not require to have a physical office, and they are, they have a lesser requirements than the other type of companies in the relevant activity. So, what board of meetings must be held in the country? What amount of board? So, no number is prescribed, as mentioned in question C also. So, there is no hard and fast rule again by the Ministry of Industry and Commerce, or you can say by the ministerial orders. However, it is depending on your certain requirements in your legislation. So, it is again, it goes back to your article of association, what you have defined there, that what are those number of meetings. For example, if a company can say that we are need to have the quarterly reporting of the or meetings of the board of director, then it is up to your company. It is not defined by the ministerial order. Okay, what are the penalties for the non-compliance? There are, as defined previously also, the entity may receive a warning notice, suspension letter from the CR, or face administrative fees up to 1,000 per day for the first time, and then it can go even up to 2,000 dinar per day also. So kindly be careful about these sanction and penalties. Now, just to tell you about our company, we have a couple of companies in Bahrain. The name of the company is called Ganova. We are headquartered based in Bahrain, and this company, what we are providing the presentation, is called Ganova Management Accounting Consultancy. In short, it's called DUMAC. So we are providing basically services for the economic substance regulation. We have company information. We have business plan, feasibility study. We can provide you, help you out in Tamkeen and other banking, financing, VAT services. Then if there is any requirement in terms of the financial requirements, we can cover. We can even provide you virtual CFO services. And we have another division which is covering the information technology. So if you are a company who are looking for the accounting software, or you're looking for complete ERP, we can provide you. We can we can provide service for website designing and so. So these are some of the things. So now, just to have an announcement from our side, those participants who are attending this event, they are are going to give the special you can say discount on the services if they will sign up with us today. Okay, thank you very much and have a nice day. If you have any question, feel free to contact us by consult@danovagroup.com, or you can call us at 341-7290, 3841-7290. So thank you very much again, and I hope this presentation will help you in understanding about new regulations in Bahrain, and wish you all the best. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. Take care.